Okay, good morning everyone and Chazak. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are getting ready, my friends, for the holiday of Hanukkah tomorrow night, Be'ezrat Hashem. It should be a holiday of miracles for us and all of Am Yisrael. And we are also studying together Perashat Miketz. Perashat Miketz is an amazing, wild Perashah. And I want to share with you today a very, very deep, important idea for high-level people like all of you listening right now. And the Midrash over here is as follows. Let's read it together first. Paro has a dream, and he is very bothered by the dream. He needs to know what the interpretation is. And nobody has the answer. For some reason, Paro is not satisfied with the interpretations that are given to him. Some say that Paro himself dreamt the interpretation of the dream. And that's why he knew whatever interpretations were offered that they were incorrect. But either way, this is all setting the stage for Yosef to come out of jail. Pasuk says, "Vaydaber Sara mashkim et Paro lemor," that the butler says to the king, to Paro, he says, "Et chata'ai ani maskir hayom." You know, I have to admit my transgressions today. Paro kataf alavadav. If you remember back when you got angry at me, Vayiten oti b'mishmar, you put me in the jail cell, me and the baker. Well, when we were there, we had a dream, me and the baker, and there was this guy, Yosef, who was able to interpret the dream properly for us. And I see, King, that you're very bothered. So maybe go get that guy from the jail to interpret it for you. My friends, is the butler a good guy or a bad guy? Where would you put him in history overall? I want to share with you what the Midrash has to say. What caused the butler, by the way, to all of a sudden now mention Yosef? What changed? Why didn't he just keep Yosef a secret forever? You didn't mention him for 2 years. Why all of a sudden now? Why did the butler care that Paro's dreams should be interpreted anyways? Let's say he never interpreted the dream, so he'll stay miserable. Says the Midrash, Ra'a Sara mashkim et Paro shayta nafsho mevakeshet latzet. He saw that Paro was on the brink of not only a depression, but he was going to die from his depression. He was so anxious, he was so bothered by the dream that his soul was going to leave him. So the butler now, hayam mehashev bedato, now he's worried and he's saying to himself, Im yamut Paro zeh, if this Paro will die and another king will arise in his place, I don't know if the other king's going to like me as much as this one. So it's in my best interest to keep this king Paro alive. And therefore, I better make sure we get him a dream interpreter. Wow. Okay? So that's thought one that's going on in the butler's head. But he's not done. Because then he speaks up and he says, my transgressions do I mention to you today. What were the multiple transgressions? Plural. Amar lo, he said to him, Shnei hata'im yesh beyadi. I committed 2 sins. Ahat, number 1, shelo asiti li Yosef tova. I didn't mention Yosef many years ago. When I got out of jail, I should have taken him out with me. I did not do that. That's number 1. Number 2, shira'iticha mitzta'er al pitrono shel halom. And the second sin is that I saw you suffering over the dream for a few days or whatever, and I did not reveal to you that there was a Joseph, that he could interpret it. So here are his 2 sins. Well, but now I'm, here to save the day. So I'm here to tell you that there was a guy, his name was Joseph. But he doesn't just call him Joseph. Pasuk says, Vesham itanu na'ar ivri. It was there in jail that we had a Hebrew youth. Okay, the youths. Okay? And Afal pisha iskiroto, even though the butler is mentioning Yosef, he actually mevazehu. In the same sentence, he's putting him down. He is trying to praise Yosef, but also make sure not to praise him too much. Mevazehu. Why? He calls him, we're going to see in a minute what he calls him. The butler is very aware of the potential greatness that is about to enter into Yosef's life. Miyad vayishrach Paro vayikra. So nonetheless, Paro, I don't care if he's a na'ar, if he's an ivri, if he's a slave, doesn't matter. Go get him. I need the interpreter. Amar Bishmuel bar Nachman, Arudim hem harshaim. Cursed are the wicked, she'en osim tova shlema, who do not perform a complete favor. They can't even do a full favor. They do a favor halfway. Why? Na'ar, he calls Yosef a na'ar. What does that mean, a na'ar? Na'ar means a youth. He's suggesting that Yosef is a kid. He's not intelligent. Oh yeah, it was a kid. Na'ar. Imbecile. Ignorant kid. Shote. Shote means foolish. Ivri, secondly, he calls Yosef a na'ar ivri. Na'ar means he's not smart. Ivri, Hebrew, meaning he's got bad status. The Egyptians, we know, despised the Hebrews. The Jews ate sheep. The Egyptians served the sheep. So 2 attempts to try to degrade Yosef. Eved, he's also a slave. And it's written in the legal codes of Egypt that a slave may not reign. So he's trying to do whatever he can to keep Yosef off of becoming great, away. Okay. But what's interesting over here, so the Midrash has a negative connotation of this butler, doesn't like him, calls him a Rasha. A Rasha. Now, this is hard to understand. You know, he didn't do a complete hesed, but you call the guy wicked? Okay, maybe he didn't do it 100%. Imagine I'm raising over here. Imagine I'm raising $1 million. I say, guys, please, I need help. A family, a house burned down. I need $1 million, whatever the number is. And you come and say, Rabbi, listen, I could give you 5,000. Oh, you Rasha. You're not giving me the full million. Why is he called a wicked person, but not doing a complete hesed? Imagine you say to someone, listen, I'll take you. You want to go to the airport? I'm not going to the airport. You want to go to Deal? I'm not going to. You want to go to Lakewood? I'm not going to Lakewood. I'm going to Deal. I'll take you to Deal. Could you find a ride from Deal to Lakewood? Oh, you Rasha. You wouldn't take me to all the way to Lakewood. I took you 3/4 of the way. Are getting labeled Rasha now? So true, the cupbearer could have done a nicer job. But you call him wicked? Okay, so one of the answers over here on the side, because he was an ingrate. But it's true, he was an ingrate. But the Midrash is not knocking him for being an ingrate. The Midrash is knocking him for not doing a complete kindness. And the question again is why? Just because he didn't do a complete kindness. You should be cursed. It's as if, like, if he didn't do anything, he would have been better off. You know, sometimes you text the wife, you text the husband, you text somebody, and then they get more upset at you for texting them than if you just, you know what, I shouldn't have said anything. You know, I texted you just a hello, and then the hello got me more in trouble than if I wouldn't have said hello to begin with. Right? What is the understanding of here? And it says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, something very, very deep, very powerful. We have to understand that, my friend, when we do a mitzvot, the mitzvah is raising our level. A mitzvah is not just an act. When I pick up a pen, I picked up a pen and nothing changed in my life. When I eat a tuna sandwich, I eat tuna. Nothing changed in my life. Maybe I'm a little bit heavier, but whatever. Nothing changed in my life. When I take a shower, nothing changed. I'm the same person, just with a shower. But a person has to know that when they do a mitzvah, the mitzvah is raising their level. You are not the same person before and after the mitzvah. We are more noble. We are holier. We say this, by the way, whenever we do a mitzvah. We say the words, Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, Vetzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat, Vetzivanu lehaniach tefillin, Vetzivanu. Well, the key words in every bracha that we say, Asher Kedeshanu. I am more kadosh now than I was 1 minute ago. The mitzvah makes me holier. A mitzvah is not just a deed. A mitzvah is not just something that gets me points in the next world. It's not just something that's going to bring me more parnasah. The mitzvah elevates me as a person. And we have to know that. I'm not the same person. I may not feel different, but I'm very different. I am more kadosh. One small act, one mitzvah, I'm a different human being. I'm a different human being. And we have to realize that. We have to appreciate that. That we are holier. When I eat spinach, a kid may think when he eats spinach that he's just listening to his mom. So I'm going to get a sticker. Wrong. You listen to your mom and you ate spinach, and the spinach will now give you intrinsically, there's nutrients in the spinach. A mitzvah, there's nutrients, there's spiritual DNA now. I'm a different person. I'm a holier person. When I do a mitzvah, not the same guy. By the way, same with an averah. Averah changes me. I'm not the same person just with a +1 sin. I'm a different person. I'm a different human being. Before I sinned, and now, after the sin, I'm a different human being. My relationship with Hashem is going to feel different. I'm going to pray, it's not going to feel the same prayer. I'm going to try to do a mitzvah, it's not going to click. I'm a different person. The first sin, by the way, that ever committed, Adam Harishon, when Adam ate from the tree, God says, now you're a different person. Before you couldn't have died, now you can die. You're a different human being. We have to realize that the mitzvot and the averot, they have in them something very powerful. They're not just arbitrary deeds. Mitzvot make us better. Mitzaref et beriyot. They elevate the human being. The mitzvot were given to elevate the person. When I pray, when I learn, when you're in this class, you got to know that you're not just a little bit more information. This is not information. I'm not here to give you information. You can read books for information. The Torah that we learn, we are holier people. This is what the Greeks hated, by the way. The Greeks could not stand that we were holier. They loved Torah. Torah, study it as a book of information, a book of wisdom. What the Greeks could not tolerate was that there's such a thing as a book that could transform you and your character, that you become a different person. That they could not handle. They try to remove us from God's Torah. They're happy for us to study Torah, study Bible, but don't study God's Bible. A Bible that makes you closer to God, a spiritual person, that they couldn't handle. When we do a mitzvah, when we learn Torah, we're a different person. We are a better version of ourselves. We are more refined. Now that demands that we act more refined. That demands that we act on a higher level. Pasuk says, Kedoshim tihiyu. You have to be holy. I have to be holy. Being holy comes by doing mitzvot. I'm an elevated person. But the elevated person now has more responsibility. There's a greater, God forbid, Chilul Hashem, desecration of God's name, when an elevated person doesn't step up. When an elevated person does something ugly, it's even worse. Because you're on a higher level. The tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is medagdek with them. God is very precise with the tzaddik. The holier you are, the more you're going to be scrutinized. It's true, by the way, in the world that we live in. If a regular person does a sin or commits a crime, it's not good. They go to jail or whatever. But when a big person does a crime, it's a scandal. Because you're on a higher level. More is expected of you. That's true in Judaism. One of the rabbis in the Gemara said, someone like me, if I take meat from the butcher and I don't pay right away, if I just take it on credit, if I say, yeah, I'll pay you later, I'll Venmo you, and I don't pay right away, for a guy like me on my level of holiness, that's a chilul Hashem. That's a desecration of God's name. Because I could have, I should have, people look at me, they may think I'm stealing. For me, it's a worse thing than for a regular guy to take on credit. My position, my elevated stature and status, and because he was a rabbi, I have to be extra careful. Maybe a normal person can make that joke, but for me to make that joke, people look at me like a religious person. They call me Hasidish. They're calling me black hat. Oh, look, you're wearing skirts. Oh, you wear a kippah. You go to class once a week. Psh, rabbi. People look at me. They're making names already. So yes, if people look at you higher, you have to act higher. And God forbid, it's a bigger Hilul Hashem if I don't. And by the way, two Jews, not necessarily the same level. You should know that. A Kohen is a higher level than a regular Jew. Like it or not, sorry to tell you. And I'm not a Kohen, by the way, so I'm not trying to, stroke my own ego. A regular Kohen is a higher level. And more is demanded and expected of a regular Kohen. Pasuk says, V'lo tehalelu et shem kodeshi. Make sure, Kohen, not to desecrate my name. Why is it talking to a Kohen? A Jew, a Yisrael, me, Mizrahi, I'm allowed to desecrate God's name? The answer is no, I'm not allowed. But a Kohen has to be extra careful. V'lo tehalelu et shem kodeshi. Because a Kohen serves in the temple, you expect more. They're held to a higher standard of holiness, yes, like it or not. So a regular Kohen does a sin. It's not the same as if a regular Jew does a sin. That's why there's different punishments, by the way, even for penalty of death, which we don't do today anyways, so don't worry. But there's different levels of punishment for a regular girl who commits a sin or a Kohen girl who commits a sin. Different level. So a person who's in a leadership role, a person who's higher, a person who's climbing, you got to be careful. The Rambam writes in the laws of Yesodei Torah that a Torah scholar, and I quote, is required to be scrupulous in his behavior and to go beyond the letter of the law. A Talmid Chacham has to be extra careful. Maybe halacha says that you're allowed to do X, but if you're a higher level person, you have to reconsider. Maybe you should not do X. But what do you mean the halacha says? Yeah, halacha is minimum. Halacha is for the low level person. Halacha, we have to realize, my friends, is the floor, not the ceiling. When the halacha says you're allowed to open the fridge on Shabbat, you're allowed to carry in a place like this, you're allowed to eat that type of food, you're allowed to... The halacha is always telling us the floor. If you're keeping halacha, you're the basic minimum Jew. But there is much higher. This is what Hasidut is. Hasidut is rising to be more higher level person. Now again, we don't demand Hasidut. We cannot expect Hasidut. You don't look down at people if they're not doing Hasidut. If a person's just keeping halakha, they're a tzaddik. You don't say nothing. But a person on their own level, when they're rising higher, then they have to understand that maybe it's time for me to do more. Maybe technically I'm allowed to wear these clothing, but people look up at me. I shouldn't wear. I can't talk like that anymore. I can't be seen in places like that. Technically, maybe there's nothing wrong because I'm not eating and I'm just there because I have to be. But maybe a person understands that as I'm growing, it's time for me to grow and I'm held. People are holding magnifying glass. Nothing wrong if a regular person were to be seen in that place. I'm not a regular person anymore. I'm held to a higher standard. And that's why it's very bad when a leader sins. When a leader sins, it's not the same as when a regular person sins. So this is the power of mitzvot. Power of mitzvot. You're not the same. Rabbi, how come Moshe Rabbeinu, he hit the rock, Hazit the guy, he hit the rock, and now he can't go into Israel? It's hard for me and you to understand because we are low-level people. When you're on Moshe's level, there's no mistakes. When you're on Moshe's level, even hitting a rock is equal to someone like me and you breaking Yom Kippur, maybe. Because more is expected of higher people. Yes, it's a double standard. It's a double standard. A double standard, but in the reverse, meaning it's not that usually a double standard you see today is we tell everyone else not allowed, and then I myself, when no one looks, I do it. That's the fake, that's the wrong double standard. But the Torah's double standard is when you understand that you could tell other people it's okay, but for yourself, you have to be more mahmir. Hacham Ovadia, he never opened the fridge on Shabbat. He said, but Dad, you said it's allowed in your book. He said, yeah, I said it's allowed for the average person. But for myself, I don't want to play with that. He's a higher level person. We have to understand that. When we grow, if you're a Kohen, if you're a person learning, whatever reason you grew, you are now held to a different standard. Higher standard. More is expected of you. And if you do what you did yesterday, yesterday you did something it was okay for you to do. Today you're a higher level. You do the same act as yesterday. It's a big sin. Because you're a different person now. You gotta know that. Kedoshim tihiyu. You're a holy person. Because the mitzvah changes you. You're a different person with the mitzvah. You're a different person. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the butler, you did an act of chesed. You told Paro about Yosef. That's a big act of chesed. That act alone had in it enough to change, to transform the identity of the butler. He's not the same butler as he was a minute ago. Just already doing one act of kindness, you're a better guy. And so when he, as a better guy, now he still is degrading Yosef, defamation. You're still acting like you were a minute ago. I don't expect that of a guy who just did a mitzvah. You just did a mitzvah, you should be on a higher level. If you could still act like that, that shows that there's something wicked in you. There's traces of rishut. There's wickedness. That's what Rav Chaim Shmulevitz says. That's an unbelievable idea, my friends. Look at the power of what a mitzvah could do to a human being. A mitzvah could change a human being. Wild. Not the same person. That's why the tzaddikim you should know. If there's someone that you want to know, Rabbi, how do I change this person? How do I make them religious? You ever ask that? All the time I get that question, right? How do I make this person religious? You know what the Rav Chaim would say? You know what the tzaddikim would say? Give this person a mitzvah to do. Let them do just a mitzvah and they're a different person. They'll become more religious somehow. But Rabbi, he's got tattoos, he's eating not kosher. It's okay. Just put tefillin on the guy. That's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe did. He sent all of his students all over, just put tefillin on the guy. But what do you mean? It's Friday afternoon and everyone's going to buy challah and this one guy is going to buy ham. It's okay, let him buy his ham. Put tefillin on the guy. You'll see, tefillin is magic. My friends, the mitzvot change us. The pasuk says, Tzedakah teromem goy. Charity will uplift a person. You give charity, you're a different person. It changes you. Even tzedakah, which is a rational mitzvah. You don't need to be Jewish to understand tzedakah. Goyim understand charity. All the time you're at the grocery store and make an extra $1 donation for charity. I mean, everyone gives charity. Right? Charity changes a person. If there's a Jew that you know, that he's connected to a mitzvah, that's a beautiful thing. Even if he's not doing any other mitzvah. But there's one mitzvah that they connect to. That one connection alone has enough to one day bring the person back. Could bring the person back. Person's connected to chesed. Beautiful. Tzedakah teromem goy. Tzedakah can elevate a person. The kindness that we perform ennobles us, makes us even greater. But we have to remember that nobility brings with it, my friends, an expectation of noble behavior. The higher we rise, the higher we climb, the more accountable, the more is expected, the higher status we have, the more careful we have to be to make sure that we are living on par with the level that we've just turned into, with the person that we have become in the process. Okay, we'll stop over here, my friends. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.